Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, just fix this first. That's just 2. What I'm going to do right now is start looking through some of these variable assignments to see if they've been initialized and then changed right away. For example, this right here immediately is changed to true. So that's the equivalent of setting it to true up there, because there's nothing in between. And it hasn't been changed here yet. So by the time it reaches this code, if it's not true, well, that's never going to happen. So that was just some dummy code I think that the object was to look within the conditional, because this used to be within the conditional code, and so that's where it would have been set to true, is in the conditional code. So if it was unconditional met, then it would have tried just writing something out as a file, is what it was going to do, and I don't think anything would have worked. So okay, so next one here, because I think that was it as far as the value was concerned. Oh, down here as well. And because that has never been set to anything else, well, 1 and true is always going to be true. That means that this code is always going to execute. Again, this being, as far as our environment is concerned, as a Windows system, so I can get rid of that variable because it's no longer used. Okay, string variable right here. Initialized to another value. So again, these are all initialized. These are initialized at these points right now. Let's see, does this get changed from anything else? Well, we can replace that with MLH, and there's no other uses of it. So and that should have been easy to figure out, so we have no need for this anymore. This is a constant. So I'm just going to do this. For that to go there. Okay. Now, is this a constant, or does it get evaluated and re-expressed? It is just simply used as a constant. Okay, I'm just going to jump over some of these here for the moment. This is an integer that is simply used right there. No other place. So 2 minus 2, 0. So this is just simply 0. Now, if this is just used as a constant, equals 0, or return 0, take 0, 0, that's times itself. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to replace this as 0. Because we no longer need the variable for it. And in this case, we don't need to change that. What about this? This is a string. It is simply used. It is not actually... It is not reassigned. So here's what I'm going to do again. With these things that are just simply used and not reassigned, I'm just going to substitute their value. I should have done that for the other one before. Uses the index. Yep. So again, let's see if this is the same. Because it was a constant, so yes, it should have been. And again, we also know this was a constant from earlier. Any function that simply returns a value that is constant is itself a constant. So we're going to replace that constant with the create object text, which means we no longer need a function there. Okay, how about this? Just a return value. Okay. So again, it's a constant. It's never been set anywhere else. And again, as a bonus, another function that returns a constant value. What about that one there as well? Might as well just simplify this. A constant of 23 being returned. Don't need function 23. Should still have no errors at this point. Okay. I mean, obviously one way to figure out what this code would do would be to run it, but I want to simplify it down first before actually trying to actually see what's being done, because of the fact that I see right here an executable file name, which means it's probably trying to download an executable file from somewhere online and save it. So don't really want to run that yet and see what that will do. Okay, let me jump to some other spots here first. Other things. This is a string. I think it's reassigned to something else. So it can't be replaced with a constant. But what we can do is start replacing some of these ugly looking names with just something that indicates what kind of thing it is. Simplify it a little bit. Okay, I'm looking at this part to see if I can simplify this down initially somehow. So we're setting a value to 1. The structure is saying do while, and the others is basically going to try doing something infinitely, I think, if we're going to, unless we actually reset the value. So here we're just using it, there we're using it, here we're changing it. Here we reset it back to 0. Okay, so this loop structure is basically, we're going to try something repeatedly, making an internet connection, trying to establish something perhaps. The first thing that's going to happen is it's going to try to loop this whole code, which will mean it will execute at least once. And then it was going to loop again through this part of the code, meaning it's going to execute at least once. The try and catch is designed for any errors trying to create the files or something like that. The catch code would be saying, I wasn't able to create the file, so what should I do? In this case, they're not actually doing anything, so they're just simply trying over and over again. First time through, we're going to get to here, well, 1 is going to be equal to 1. So that means we are going to end up executing this block of code right there. And again, we're just going to assume that it will actually run the first time out the gate for us. Which means that we now set this value to 2. Let's simplify this. 163. This loop right here is basically, my guess is this is probably a network connection object waiting for a red complete signal to break out of an infinite loop, waiting for it to move forward. So in other words, it is probably downloading something, trying to find something, trying to get a file. So once it's gotten the file, then it will come to here and reset the value to 0. Now at no point beyond that point do we end up resetting it. So that means we fall out of here. Well, we started with 1 in our loop, and we're now down to 0, so this is not true. This loop format is going to effectively break out of the loop, and then the while 0 means that that's finished as well. So, get rid of this, we get rid of this loop. And since they don't actually have anything in a try and catch structure, okay. That big messy thing was bugging me earlier. I wanted to get that off of my plate. Oh, more expressions to evaluate. What's this? It's 1. 23 minus less than 23 times 1, so that'll be 23. What do we have here? We have variable. Oh, but B redefines itself. Does A ever get redefined? Used. Locally reset. Locally used something. Locally returned. Okay, so let's go in and fix that local one first. And it's even not an integer variable here, it's a string. Like I said, they switch around the local and global. That makes a really interesting